The new Toyota Camry just came out, and as soon as I walked by one for the first time, I thought, wait, is that just a rebadged Lexus? Well, in today's video, we're gonna dig into the new Camry and actually have it side by side with the current ES Hybrid to answer that very question. Is this just an ES300H with a Camry badge on it? I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines, and a big shout out to Performance Toyota and Daniel in particular, the Fashion King, for getting this Camry ready for us to film today. Okay, so just a little bit of a background with my relationship and the Toyota Camry. Not many people know this, but I went to school to be a mechanic. I didn't end up being one, obviously. And when I was in school, a lot of my classmates all drove Camrys. And because of that, there was always this like camaraderie about how sick Camrys are. Because for the money, I've always found them to be a very smooth, reliable, and in most countries of the world, actually considered a luxury car. So having it side by side with the ES today is gonna be a really good comparison. Now with this new Camry design, the first thing that I've noticed as I walk by these things, being that we're beside a Toyota dealership every day, is the front end. And I was joking with a few friends about when the new Prius came out and now with the new Camry, and I was like, yo, Toyota's been working out. It's like, who hurt you, Toyota? You've been at the gym and you look better than ever now. You've been tanning and you've been hitting the weights and you look amazing. And that's what this front end tells me. And it's pretty simple to think. So now we have an accentuated, very wide and low slung front grille. We have the bottom section here that reminds me of the Lexus F Sport grille, but we've seen that in a couple Camrys already. What's changed to me is this center bit here, and it's got some venting and some sensors and stuff like that. And then that new headlight design, which some people say looks a little buggy, but I love it. Now this one is the SE package, so it doesn't have the wraparound daytime running lights, but when you see one of them with it, it sort of gives a really exotic looking front end that whether you like it or not, it will catch your attention. That's for sure. So from that, we also have a little bit of side venting here. This is all pretty cheap feeling plastic. It's like the textured plastic, but because of that, since it's not painted, it makes for very durable. And this one being the SE, we also have a little bit of a lip kit here. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's pretty sick. Like this lip here and how it has like that V angle reminds me of like the Artisan Spirits kit for Lexus or the Tom's Racing kit, like almost like an aftermarket lip kit, and it draws my attention to it as well. If we compare it to the ES, we have some similar lines. Now, this ES Hybrid isn't the Sport. This one's like the mid-level, it's the luxury. And we have a little bit more chrome here, a little bit more of that exaggerated grille. However, as you get to the sides, you see a little bit more of those wide angles. And with this one, standard, we're gonna have more of that daytime running light, that frosted daytime running light, which if you can imagine on the Camry, those higher packages have that sort of around that headlight and the triple beam headlight as well on the ES. Now, I was peeking under the hood of the Camry earlier because that was a difference that I noticed, is this new Camry has the updated and latest and greatest powertrain that maybe we'll see when the ES gets redesigned. Maybe that's like a little foreshadowing, is that the ES is gonna be redesigned relatively soon as well. And what I noticed, and I was telling the guys, it's not that I don't work out, because I'm not ripped by any means, but this is the heaviest hood I've ever felt in my entire life. And I get that with Lexus, I'm used to having a little bit of a strut on the hood instead of the prop rod, but I mean it. I don't know if that's part of the structure or the crash test rating, or just a way to insulate and help with some sound deadening for the 4-cylinder hybrid system we have under here. But I will challenge you to lift up one of these hoods. It's super solid and super heavy, and I'm sure that helps with safety. Under here, yes, the new Camry only comes in a 4-cylinder hybrid, but it does come in two trims, or two powertrains, I guess you could say. You have that on-demand all-wheel drive system, or the SE front-wheel drive system that we see here. And when you go to the on-demand, you'll get some extra electric motors and a little bit extra power as well. Now, speaking of that hood, as I'm closing it, I do see some nice body lines. One that fades away and one that sort of stays truant all the way through the edge. Pretty similar to the ES, except for on the ES, it has more of a round at the front. So it sort of wraps around and then stays truant. So pretty similar body lines, but the Camry so far is coming in a little bit heftier with that hood, as well as a little bit, it seems lower slung and a little bit lower slung and a little bit more sporty, I would say. Okay, so let's look at the side profile, which makes me think this is the exact same car. Just kidding, but it's similar. The wheel size, so we have an 18-inch wheel Hankook on the Camry and an 18-inch wheel Michelin on the ES. They're both the exact same size, which is a 235/45/18, and they both have just a regular brake setup below it. I did notice the Lexus bumper sort of goes higher up that fender to make it so it's almost like a two-piece side, where this one stays low and towards the front. And even the fender itself has a little bit more tin sound to it on the Camry. And oh, you know what I noticed? The mirrors. So the top of the mirrors has these little vortex generators. On the Camry, we have the little vortex generator on this little triangle piece. And again, it's almost like that textured plastic. On the Lexus, it's a lot smaller and painted, and we have some chrome injected to a little bit sleeker of a mirror. Now, this is the real test. The sound of closing the door. So we're gonna start with the Camry. Okay, now to the Lexus. Definitely there's a difference. It's not huge. Hang on, it's yelling at me. It's not huge, but as expected, the Lexus does have a little bit more weight to it, it feels. And because of that, a little bit less of the tinny sound, but it's not a lot on the Camry. It's still not bad. And actually the rear door, there's almost none. Yeah, it's really similar. However, the Camry does have a little bit more of that tinny noise. I'm sure it's just a little bit of weight savings. And sometimes I find with Lexus and Toyota, it's like they'll build the Lexus, and then with the Toyota, they're like, oh, let's just make it so it's a little bit less luxurious so that people still buy the Lexus, because they're still the same parent company. Height-wise, I would say both are very similar. The Camry might seem lower, but I think it's just in my head. If so, we're talking fractions here. It's not a big deal. And it could be because it's the Sport. I'm not 100% sure. So body lines of the Camry did make me think. Now, I saw this all over the internet that people were criticizing the new Camry for just being like a reskinned old Camry, because the way that platforms work now is different than it used to work years ago. Technically, this is on the same platform, but the word platform now means sort of like the puzzle pieces that go together, or like that foundation of the car itself. And I would say looking at it, I didn't think so, except for when I look down the side, the body lines of this Camry look very familiar, like the old one. However, we do have a little bit of a lip kit on the bottom because of that SE, and it looks like that body line goes right down the middle of the door handles, which look unchanged from previous models. On the Lexus, we have a little bit higher of a body line, and it's a little bit more of an edge to it. I did hear recently from a guest of mine how important that part of the integral structure is when you have that fold like that in the aluminum, and what that does for it. Then the door handles, again, just the standard Lexus door handles. They're not the E-latch yet. I'm sure when they redesign the ES coming soon, we'll probably see a little upgrade to that electronic door latch that I love so much. And now let's look at some rear ends. So on the back of the Camry SE, we have the SE badge as well as the HEV badge, which I'm seeing pop up a little bit more. Yo, we got a blacked out Camry logo, which reminds me of the LEXUS logo that we're seeing pop up. And by the way, even on some Lexuses, I've seen us be able to black these out. But this looks like it comes from the factory that way, and I think that's super sleek and classy. Now, if you know me, you know I love a good taillight, so let's check out the taillights on the new Camry. And again, it's an SE, so I'm not expecting the world here, but they're super smooth. So a little bit of just diffusion here, classic Toyota looking taillight, nothing to write home about. I think in the higher packages, it's more sharp and more diffused and a little bit more Lexus-like. And of course, one of the benefits of the Camry is gonna be that trunk space. So, looks super wide. You can definitely fit a couple golf clubs. The trick is to see how many Dustins can you fit in here, and it looks like at least one, maybe 1.5. There's lots of space. Not too many features, although I did notice those back seats do fold down, and that is a benefit because not every car does that. and we have a little lever there to do so. I'm gonna check to see, and yes, it does. It has a spare tire. Ladies and gentlemen, it has a spare tire. I know people in the comments are always making sure I talk about spare tires, and this Camry has one. Okay, so back to the ES. So we have a little bit of chrome at the top there, the classic Lexus logo, the ES300H down in the bottom right, and then not really any diffusion going on here. It's just a solid painted piece at the bottom, and the exhaust pipe is tucked nicely up because that body language or that new design language of having no exhaust back there. But otherwise, nothing crazy to write home about. I will show you them taillights though, because they're super sharp. So now we have more of a diffused LED setup with some layers to it. And again, in traffic, it just catches your eye and states that this is a luxury vehicle that is driving in front of you. We also have a little spoiler here, and that was interesting because for ESs for a while, only the hybrids had spoilers. Maybe it's for fuel economy, I don't know. In terms of the trunk space, so for one, it opens very smoothly. Even though it's not powered, it's almost like spring-loaded, it just opens up differently than a regular trunk, and I like that someone at Lexus Engineering thought of that. And also even the way that the struts or the mechanism is covered. These are all those little things that make it a Lexus. We have ample room in here. Definitely you could fit one Dustin and a half, but you'll notice the rear seats don't fold down. There's just a pass-through. And I get asked this all the time. Dustin, why does Lexus in some of their models not have fold-down seats? I want the fold-down seats. Well, it's simple. A lot of road noise and a lot of extra air and anything going on can be sealed off when the air pressure from the trunk is sealed off. And because of that, to have that pass-through instead of actual fold-down seats means a smoother and quieter ride, especially for those rear passengers. And I had a guest, Adam, the other day tell me, you should buy a car for 80% of your lifestyle instead of the 20%. So even if you're only gonna use that extra space 20% of the time, still go with that quiet ride because you're gonna use that 80% of the time. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so getting into the Camry, and this is like my second time sitting in this vehicle, so it's gonna be a lot new to me. I did notice, even just shutting that door, there's definitely like a little bit extra vibration there, but that's okay. Interior wise, I like the layers. I like the simplicity of the layers. I will notice it's really cool, this trim that we see. So even in the base model, I like that there's some leather, there's some fabric, and sort of trimmed on the dash and on the doors. It's almost like an injected molded plastic, but covered in like a textile material with stitching going across. So I think it's very pretty to look at. It's kind of soft and high-end to touch. It's a new take. And actually, I sort of see some of that in the seats as well. So I find that really cool. Everything else is very simple. We have a couple cup holders here with some extra storage in front of it. I love when brands do that. We have a seamless wireless charger, which is cool because, I don't know, like it just seems like a little shelf, which I like. Decent size armrest. It is padded, it's not super padded. Again, it's a little plasticky. I can feel it moving around a little bit, but it's fine. It's a Camry. We have a couple different drive modes down here. So Eco, Normal, and Sport. Ergonomically, I think they're in a great spot. One of the best spots, actually. Because if my arm is here, I can just go boom, boom, boom. First finger is Eco, second is Normal, third is Sport. That's super easy. And then we have EV mode. Now, if you don't know what EV mode is, on hybrid, I usually let the car do the thinking itself. However, there's some situations that you want to override it and just be like, yo, put that in EV. Maybe pulling it in and out of a showroom like I did today. Maybe pulling it out of your driveway. Most of the time you can just let it do its thing though. And then it'll have that gas engine on when you need to, have the hybrid working with it, but you can override that. Then we have the brake hold switch or button, which is another feature that I always forget to go over. It's really cool because if you're in the drive-thru and you want to give that brake leg a little bit of a break, no pun intended, you can press that hold button, let go of that brake, and then when you're ready to move again, you can sort of just hit the gas and it'll turn it off. And then we have the electronic parking brake below that. The shifter itself, I'm just going to turn it on. Really nice, super ergonomic. It's a true shift. I don't know how else to explain that. So a true like clicking into gear shift with a sport mode to the left. I see some USB-C chargers at the front of that little shelf as well as a USB-A. So that might be for data, I'm not sure. And then above that, we have these little vents, which have some texture to it. I quite like that. The 4-way switch is within reach of that shifter, which I always like to see. And then the automatic climate control with things like the heated steering, the heated seats, all that, sort of integrated into its own panel, which I really like. I think that's smart. And you can change the levels of those types of features. I always just leave that type of system at 21 degrees Celsius, let it do its thing. In terms of the multimedia, this looks very familiar. Now, this being the SE, it's definitely a smaller screen than any of the other ones that you can see out there. And this looks exactly like the Lexus system that I'm used to, except for the beep. That, my friends, is a beep with a capital P at the end. But you can turn that off, I'm sure. In there, we have things like some climate adjustments. And you know what? Even though the screen itself looks very familiar, the actual animations look a little different. Not better, not worse, just different, I would say. So on that, you have that new Toyota multimedia thing. On the screen in the center, I'm just gonna adjust the steering wheel manually here, is pretty nice. Like, I would say very nice colors. We default to that beautiful animation of the hybrid and electric motors doing their thing and where the power is coming from. You can customize a lot of the layout of this, and I find there's actually a decent amount of layers to it. All the latest Toyota safety stuff, everything from pre-collision system to also driver exit assist, where like if you're about to leave the car and there's like a cyclist coming down the road, it'll help you. With that, we also have road sign assist, all the latest and greatest. And I love that Toyota and Lexus always do that, where you don't have to pay extra for safety features because they're safety features. So I always recommend that when you're shopping for a car, if you're comparing this to maybe one of the other volume brands, and this is coming out a little bit more money, well, check to see if you have to pay extra for safety features with those other brands. I bet you do. And that helps with things like insurance costs and stuff like that. So yeah, a bunch of different layers here, everything from EV driving ratio to driving score to all those fuel economy type things, which hybrid owners always find so fun to watch and to make sure. I love the eco score. It'll give you that when you finish your trip, and it'll give you a score on how did you do. Start and stop, cruise, braking, all that stuff. And it just kind of makes it a game to save fuel. And they've been doing that since like the Prius back in the day, back when I was at Toyota in like 2015. So that looks really great. I'm super happy with that. We also have, oh, that's really good. Oh my goodness. I found something in here that I wish Lexus had, and that's rare. The volume knob on the steering wheel, although it's a little loose, it's good. And what I mean by that is it's like an up and down switch, very ergonomic. It's in a great spot. Great job, Toyota. You showed us what's up, and I hope that that happens in the ES in the future. We also on the right side just have some driving stuff like radar cruise, etc., etc. On the left, I have a few buttons over here, nothing crazy, things like auto high beam, etc. A single panel sunroof with a black or like charcoal textile roof. Nothing too fancy here. It is an LED vanity light and some cool LEDs sort of in that dome light section. But that's enough about the front. I will say the seats are very comfortable. It's definitely a synthetic leather. It's the Softex leather, but there's nothing wrong with that. They'll hold up and they'll last a very long time, and overall very comfortable, and their power. And the lumbar is really good too. But let's take a look at that rear seat and see how that compares. Okay, getting in the back seat, first of all, shutting the door on the back, more solid than the front. Hands down, way more solid. There's less materials and like less mechanisms in the rear door, and I think that's why I don't hear that extra shake. Also, I find ergonomically, it feels really tall back here. I feel like I have tons of headroom. I feel like I'm very upright. I feel like the seat in front of me is actually really tall, so I don't know if the rear is lower. Like, I don't know if I'm actually technically sitting lower than the front, but it feels comfortable and very safe, and I like that. I did find a very interesting design that reminds me of the ES, and that's right here. It's like in the Katana, which is like a very interesting design language on the ES, on the dashboard where there's like this panel that looks like a katana. That's exactly what this is here. It's almost like they took that from the ES and put it here, except they made it plastic, where on the ES it's actually metal. So that's something that I noticed. Let's look at this armrest. Again, I wouldn't really expect less. It sort of droops down, but it does the trick. No one's gonna complain about it. It's leather, it's comfortable. The seats themselves are very comfortable. Amenities, we don't have a ton in this package, just a little map holder, We have some vents in the center, some charging ports, nothing crazy, but a really comfortable car for the price. Okay, so now we're sitting back in the lap of luxury with the Lexus ES, and I'm not gonna go over the extra features you get in this because this is a higher package, it is a more expensive model. Those things are going to be expected. It's more about the layout. So already very different center console, although the shifter is in that still step design, very similar to what I saw in the Camry, just a little bit more leather, a little bit more size to it. The actual layout is very different. We have that wireless charger closer to the back, a couple cup holders in the front, and the console, I hope I'm saying that right, the console itself seems bigger. The armrest that opens, both sides, a little bit extra leather, and the materials themselves are just higher quality, including how that door shuts, right? A little bit more solid with some wood grain, some aluminum. Things you touch are higher end, including even things you don't touch normally, like this little panel here. So that is sort of where Lexus and Toyota are going to differentiate, is the materials used on the interior. Although, as I pointed out, even the screen, once it's fired up, is a really similar layout. It actually looks like the same multimedia display, although someone just drag and dropped it and put it in a Lexus versus a Toyota. We have a little bit more buttons for things like heated and cooled seats, all separate down at like this lower panel, where in the Toyota it was more integrated up. So we see a little bit of differentiation there. Seat-wise, I mean, the ES has always been known for very comfortable seats with lots of controls. This one has genuine leather, where some of them are still going to be Nulux, which is very similar to Softex. They both are the synthetic leather that Toyota and Lexus offers. I am impressed, and I'm always impressed with the new ES and how modern it feels, because it's got wood grain, but it's like a modern take on wood grain, and it gives you a little bit of that timeless. And speaking of timeless, we still got a clock in here, like an analog Lexus clock, which I think is just so classy. Back seat of that Lexus, oof. Sorry, that sounds great. I gotta do it again. Oh, amazing. That sounds so good getting into the back of the ES. We also have, already as I'm getting in, stuff like the door handle is metal. It's a metal door handle. We have wood grain on the doors. We have layered leather, less of that cheap feeling plastic and more luxury feeling things. So it's one of those things that if you didn't have a Lexus before, you wouldn't notice a difference. But once you have it, it's hard to let go of those higher end materials. Amenities wise, I mean, it's the same package. We have some maps, we have some wireless, or not wireless charger, we have some USB-Cs, we have headspace, and even the armrest here flops down, but it's just taller. There's less of a gap, there's more to it, there's cup holders built into it, it's a bit more comfortable, even the seats are more comfortable. The attention to detail with like the leather and the stitching and the perforated leather, all of those things are expected. In terms of space and size, I mean, they both have tons of that. The Camry might even have a few extra inches, I'm not sure. It's all pretty similar though. So to answer the question, is the new Camry just a rebadged Lexus? And the answer is no. However, coming soon, we are going to see a new fully redesigned ES that we're imagining is going to be offered only in hybrid and maybe even plug-in hybrid, similar to what we saw happen with the Camry. And we also think there's going to be some upgrades to the powertrain, maybe even an updated hybrid powertrain, like how this Camry here has 225 horsepower and this one only has 215. And I think when that happens, Lexus is going to do a really good job of differentiating itself from Toyota, as they've done in the past with driving dynamics and maybe even a higher horsepower powertrain, which I of course know nothing about, wink wink, nudge nudge. And on the Camry, we did see some really cool engineering feats. One is, and this could be wrong, but it's what I read online, and everything on the internet is of course true, this was fully designed by an engineer here in North America. I think the USA to be exact, where usually the Camry has a head engineer in Japan or somewhere else, and then they sort of like fine tune it. So this car was designed and tuned from the ground up for roads in North America and that driving dynamic. And because of that, we see a very smooth ride and even smoother and better suspension than previous generations. We have some latest tech, some amazing styling. Even the Toyota badge just looks better. It's more like a brushed aluminum that really sticks out instead of, you know, a chrome that might actually fade and stuff like that. I think Toyota did an absolute amazing job. I can't wait to check out a totally fully loaded one. However, it's definitely not a Lexus, but still a lot of great value for the money. You know, back in school, I used to let some of my friends copy my homework. And I would always say, you can copy it, just make it look different. And in today's video, we're gonna see if Toyota and Lexus did that exact same thing with the Lexus GX and compare it to the Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, I've looked at these vehicles exteriorly a few times, but today I actually want to drive them back to back and see if there's a big enough difference or if Toyota just copied Lexus's homework or vice versa. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. Okay, so being that I'm a diehard Lexus guy, it's rare that I prefer the styling on a Toyota. And I think with the Land Cruiser, I don't know if it's just because I look at a GX all the time, like every day, and that this is just different, but I do think I like it a little bit more. We have the Toyota actually spelt out, that's the heritage style grille, with a little bit of like squared off grille happening, a little bit smaller at the top, a little bit bigger at the bottom. We have that front-facing camera. We also have a little bit of that off-road branded fog lights. They say rigid on it. I remember seeing that with the Tacoma as well. I think that's really cool, really rugged. I love these headlights, but I've also seen that like heritage circle headlights. And I think that is really cool. There's lots of dimensions to this front grille. I know I'm gonna overuse the word rugged, but it definitely looks rugged. We have a little bit of texture below that headlight. The daytime running light is super squared off. In fact, a lot of the things on the Land Cruiser are sort of squared off. There's like sharp angular lines. We have a little bit of angles here on the hood that's different from the GX, and I'll compare that in a second. Both hoods, I noticed when you're sitting in it, you can really see those vision lines. And it does have a really good height clearance. It's up to like my knees, I guess. And then even underneath that, we have a really big angle to the main chassis with a couple tow hooks exposed. So definitely, it isn't just for show. You can tell that this vehicle can go off-road. Let's compare it to the Lexus. Now, one of the differences, especially in package, is this Lexus isn't like the off-road one. This is not the Overtrail. So comparing it to it, I mean, it already looks lower, and I'm just gonna compare side by side. It pretty much is now. It's not like it's lower chassis, it's just the front bumper, really. It just has a little bit more bumper hang. It goes a little bit further down. It's supposed to be more sleek and less dimensional, I think, with the Lexus. Because again, the Lexus gives you the Overtrail, the premium, the luxury, all the different variances. And this one is supposed to be that city slicker, that city boy, city girl. It is big. It doesn't have, you know, as much of those dimension or sharp lines to it. I do love the daytime running light on the Lexus more. I think that frosted check mark just really does it for me. It's got the triple beam LED headlights. Of course, we have washers for those headlights, as well as we still have fog lights and cornering lights, where I noticed on the Toyota, it doesn't have the cornering lights. It just has the fog lights. But actually, wait, I just noticed, oh, that's nice. I love when I find aero features that actually do something. That's real. So that venting actually does go into the tires and brakes. Not sure with an off-road vehicle why you would need to cool them off like a race car, but I mean, it is what it is. And then the hood lines are different. And that's something that I didn't notice until right now, is that the Lexus and the Toyota do have different hoods. Although standing beside it, there's a lot of other things that are the same. The windshield you'll see is like more of that straight up and down on both of them. However, as you get closer to the hood, this one is like a piano black with lines kind of going front to back. The Toyota, however, is like a textured plastic. So it's a textured plastic with some vents. So that alone makes the two look a lot different. And again, just a little bit more, I don't know, utilitarian on the Land Cruiser, where the Lexus, again, having that little bit of painted material here. Oh, also, didn't realize this until we parked. It's a different black. So this is more of the gloss black, which we used to see in like the F Sport. It's like kind of similar to that obsidian color. It's one of the oldest Toyota colors. I have a Toyota Supra that has this color. And then on the Lexus, of course, we have caviar. Lots of deep metallic flake to that color. A little bit nicer for hiding scratches and stuff like that. But the obsidian is that full blacked out look. Okay, talking about the side profile, and I want to start with the tires. So on the Land Cruiser, we have a Michelin LTX Trail. It's got that soft little bit, kind of like the Pilot Sports, which reminds me that this is like the Pilot Sport of the off-road tire. Not only is this tire setup different from the GX that's beside me, but it's also different from the Overtrail, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. The fender flares are textured, where on the Lexus they're a little bit more of that body color. We got these running boards as well as a plastic piece above that. Again, that's textured. The mirrors are very similar in shape, just a little bit different configured, but I mean, they both have that same signal there. The side profile, you would think that they were twins. It'd be like looking at two twins from the side and being like, oh, which one is which? And that is because of that's really where that platform is going to look familiar. So side profile, if you're not looking at those little details, it might be hard to tell if this is a Lexus or a Toyota. Even though I'm a Lexus guy, I don't find anything wrong with that. It's a side profile that works, it looks great. Why be mad about that? On the side profile of the City Slicking GX, we have a different tire. This one is a Yokohama. Again, a little bit more of that City Slicker type setup here. So a little bit lower profile. The Overtrail one is sick because of the side off, like the off-road tire on the side has like traction all around it. I'm pretty sure it was built for that Overtrail setup. We have fender flares that are painted. So again, a little bit more of that city life. We have a little bit of a silver accent here on the running board. The mirror reminds me exactly of the other, except one detail. This is funny. The signal here is clear, even though it flashes, it's gonna flash the amber color. The one on the Toyota is actually just amber. It just looks amber. And then all the way to the back, that same exact silhouette and even same ride height as the Toyota. Okay, so going to the back of the GX, we have that big taillight that goes from one side over to the other. It's very three-dimensional. It's got, you know, a little bit of angles to it. It looks super soft. LEXUS is just above that. We got a little bit of chrome there with the GX 550. We have the doggy window, which I love. You can open that up and have your golden retriever sticking their head out, so when you're at the beach. And then sort of going to the bottom, I mean, there's a little bit of textured plastic here covering kind of where the hitch is, but other than that, it's all painted for the most part. I will say, and I do miss when the GX used to open like a door, this particular one has the 3 rows. So it kind of gives you that flexibility that if you want to bring a couple extra passengers, it pretty much eliminates the trunk after that. Like there's enough for, you know, maybe a 6-pack of beer or something like that, a 6-pack of Coca-Cola, whatever your thing is behind there, but not a lot. When that's down, the trunk is pretty big. We have lots of room back here. You can fold down the seats, power. We have an outlet so you can plug in your cooler, all of those things. But you know, it is kind of nice having that 3rd row sometimes too. So to each their own. Over to the Toyota, and this is one of those details that I think it's just because it's different that I like it, and that's the taillight. Instead of having that bar that goes across, it's its own combination lamp, and it's got this cool like retro, I don't know, reminds me of like the movie Tron or something like that, where it's still got those like retro shapes. And then all the badges on this one are blacked out. So it says Land Cruiser, it says Toyota, and then it has the chrome iForce Max. We have a little bit different of a textured plastic here. It's got some grip to it. It's got some squares to it. A little bit of a different color down here too. And that same sort of like protruding piece that's like covering where the hitch goes, I guess. We can open up the golden retriever door, of course, just like the Lexus. And if we look in the back, this one doesn't have the 3rd row. So it doesn't have the 3rd row. Instead, it has sort of like a modular space here, and you can kind of move it around and configure it, and I think slide it out. It actually says handling the board. That's funny. So again, a little bit more of that rugged configuration, and I think it like kind of comes up and slides out. I can't remember. We still have the cooler plug or the outlet here, and again, in this configuration, pretty decent sized trunk without the 3rd row. Sitting in the Land Cruiser, I mean, a few things I knew were gonna be the case. Some of the materials and textures and stuff like that are definitely a little bit less Lexus-like than the GX for sure, but that's okay. There's also a few things I'm really impressed about, like the buttons on the steering wheel are super satisfying to use. Okay, so it's a very similar one to like the new RX layout and the GX layout and stuff, where it's kind of like preset screens and you can customize them a little bit. And then I really like this volume knob because you kind of just go up and down like that. I kind of like a physical shaped button sometimes. Also, I noticed in the center we have physical mode. So we have sport, normal, and eco, so we'll put it in normal. And then we have, oh, we can select the different multi-terrain select. So auto, dirt, sand, deep snow, mud, okay. And then we can also do the crawl control. So this is all very similar to the Lexus. Or if you wanted to do crawl control, you would do that, and then I think you kind of use that to change the speed. But we'll put it in drive mode for now. Also, some of the other buttons in the center, we have a locking center diff, we have a locking rear diff, we have a stabilizer bar that's like a disconnect. So that's where, like, I know in the GX, it was like an articulation thing where, you know, if you're doing some serious off-road. And the whole point of these off-road buttons, it's not like you're gonna use them in collaboration all the time. It's kind of just like giving you an extra place to go if you need to. Enough talking though, because I'm excited to drive this because I haven't driven it before. Oh, really cool. That's sick. The display on the screen, I forgot Toyota started doing that. And I wonder how I control that. Anyway, so it's a hybrid, don't forget. This is the iForce 4-cylinder hybrid powertrain. Trying it out for the first time. Super smooth. Gonna go over some bumps here. Oh yeah. It's just as solid as the GX. This one has a higher sidewall, so I'm kind of wondering what that's gonna feel like. And I am gonna try it on the highway quick too. Super light steering. Oh, also we should see how these tires feel on the highway. That's something people always ask me. A lot of highway drivers that want a car like this for, like, you know, their weekend, their cottage, stuff like that. I like the dash layout, like buttons and switches. That's something that the industry went away from, and I'm glad it's coming back. Physical buttons are cool. I like physical buttons. I kind of miss those in a lot of luxury cars right now. I love the seating position. I love the hood lines. I always thought that was great that Lexus was doing that with these cars, and Toyota, sorry. Keep forgetting I'm in a Toyota. And now I'm gonna do, this will be my first time actually punching it with this powertrain. It's so smooth. Like that extra hybrid aspect of this powertrain makes it so smooth. Wow, some good gear shifts. Okay, no one's gonna say it's fast, but it's not bad. Another thing, the mirrors are like, I say they're like portrait mode because they're like vertical. You can see a lot with them. A little bit of wind noise, but I think it's just a windy day. Could be the sunroof too, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's decent. Like, it doesn't feel underpowered at all. I don't hear much road noise. Like I said, I hear a bit of wind. We get that regenerative braking. Yeah, it's good. It drives nice. It's really smooth. I wanted to know in this video if we were driving a dressed down Lexus or a dressed up Toyota, and this drives like a Lexus kind of, I would say, with the exception of the interior materials. Even the power is not bad, especially at low RPM. I wonder if they did that on purpose because, like, for off-road, you probably want power low, right? It's good, handling's good. Interior feel is really good too. A little bit of rugged stuff. It's still soft. It's still injected molded plastic. Oh, here's something I love. The volume knob is a separate entity. So instead of being like incorporated, it's way off to the side. The screen is right out of a Lexus for sure. It's got all the safety features. I don't know about proactive drive assist, but I can find out later. It's almost like a package of the GX. It's like if you want the entry level package of the GX, you get a Land Cruiser. And if you don't want to feel bad, because it's so much less expensive. If you're afraid to, like, you know, do anything that's gonna scratch it, maybe this is the way you go. It'll be interesting to compare it to the GX. And those tires, like going over these bumps, I think take up a lot of it. Okay, so here we go. Overall, drives very similar to a Lexus. We have some different materials, like I do like the Toyota steering wheel. I like that there's buttons here. I think that's great. The cruise control, all that stuff. Even the materials inside, they're definitely less soft than the Lexus, but not in a terrible way. Still has a lot of the same features. Even bird's eye view is standard on this package, which is great. We have all the off-road stuff kind of within reach. And again, just, you know, it makes sense. And the powertrain, I'll see when I drive the GX right now, but it wasn't too bad. So let's see. Okay, so now in the GX, already I see some homework that is for sure copied. That's that dash, the multi-display. It's the exact same. The buttons on the steering wheel are different, for sure. They're a different material. It's funny that, like, some buttons are higher quality than others, but it doesn't matter a whole lot. But the screen itself, that's the exact same screen. And even paying attention to, like, the buttons on the side of the steering wheel to the left, they're the same buttons. Sorry, they're the same features, but they're configured differently. So Lexus and Toyota did think, okay, we can't just have them all the same. They move them around a little bit. So that's interesting. On the GX, we have the heads-up display. We have, again, even the shifter, which is same way it works, is just different though. It just like, it does it differently. We have the high-low switch. We have the locking differential switch. Those are all condensed. Now this one, I think, isn't gonna have as much off-road just because it's the premium package. Oh, but it still does that little screen, just like the Toyota. The material's way different. Like we have, you know, some brushed aluminum, we have some wood grain, we have a lot softer leather, although the seats in that Land Cruiser were still pretty good. But let's do it back to back. This will be interesting. I don't know how many people get to do this, so I think we're pretty lucky. Yeah, equally as smooth. Why does it feel a little bit smoother? I'm gonna go over that same bump. That's interesting. I thought, for some reason, this is silly, but I thought this one would feel a bit more rugged because of it's like a lower profile tire, but it's equally as smooth. I think that's just how fine-tuned these cars are. A little bit different screen setup too. The Toyota one is a little shorter and wider because it doesn't have the heated and cooled seats and like the climate stuff built in. It had that separate panel for it. So that's a little bit different, sort of like right in the center there. Also the volume knobs in the middle at the bottom. Both have bird's eye view. The heads-up display is nice, I do like that. The power is different because this is not a hybrid, don't forget. This is a turbo 6. It's got a nice grunt to it. I've had a couple people say they wish it was gruntier, but maybe just for fun, maybe we put it in sport mode. Let's do sport mode. Why not? Ooh, it's got a good throaty intake. It's a smooth engine too. For being non-hybrid, it's still really smooth. All right, the power is gonna feel a lot different, I think, getting on the highway. Let's see. And there's an officer, so we always obey the speed limit, people. It's not crazy, guys. It's not a crazy difference. It is different, and it's a really smooth V6. Yeah, it's not super crazy. It's a nice get up and go. I can see the hood has a little bit of the wind shake. We read all about that online. It's not a big deal. When you see most hoods, they all do that. It's just this hood you can see more of. And I like that. I like that you can see more of the hood. I think it's a bit quieter. I do think it's quieter. I don't know if this is a placebo effect, but I just did the same stretch of highway on both the Land Cruiser and the Lexus. And what I noticed was there wasn't as much wind. I have the sunroof open the exact way, or like just the shade. I went the same speed. Maybe I got a little bit more engine noise out of this. Could be the glass or something, who knows, right? Or sometimes Lexus will just have a bit more insulation than the Toyota counterpart. We noticed that with RX. When I worked at the factory for RX, we one time got a shipment of door lock cables that were supposed to be for the Highlander. And the only difference, they were the same size, they could fit into the same space as the RX, RX and the Highlander. The only difference was the RX had foam on the outside of the door lock cable, just to give it a little bit extra insulation. That could be what's happening here. I don't know, it could be something like that. I will say I like the engine sound of the GX better. A little bit of turbo lag, but it's good, yo. That sounds great, and it feels good. I like this engine better. The Land Cruiser would be more fuel efficient for sure. So if you're driving a lot in the city, that could be a big difference. So yeah, I mean, exactly what I thought. It's got higher quality materials on the inside, surprisingly a little bit smoother sound, I guess. Even in sport mode, I was in sport mode that whole time. But they're close. The two of them are close. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so I figured it out. It's not that the Toyota or the Lexus are copying each other's homework, because that implies that they're trying to be something they're not. The Land Cruiser is almost just another package of the GX, or vice versa. You could think the Lexus GX is just the luxury package of the Land Cruiser. And it kind of reminded me, because for many years, Land Cruiser was like its own sub-brand of Toyota. You rarely thought of it as a Toyota Land Cruiser, you thought of it as a Land Cruiser. In a lot of markets, the Land Cruiser was like the same price as our Lexus equivalent here. So this is where I come down to. If you like the luxury features, if you like the luxury look of like a premium or luxury package GX, you should go with the Lexus. If you like that turbocharged V6, go with the Lexus. It's got a great grunt to it. I did love that get up and go. Hands down, that's my favorite part. If you want a little bit better fuel economy, A little bit more ruggedness with those fog lights, especially the amber-based ones, and something that's still a lifestyle luxury vehicle. The Land Cruiser might check all those boxes off. So to me, no one is copying anyone's homework here. They're both really great at what they do, and it's amazing that as a consumer, you have the choice between the two of them. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which one you would choose, the Land Cruiser or the Lexus GX. And again, a big shout out to Performance Toyota for letting me borrow this brand new Land Cruiser. I'm sure it's gonna go to a good home. And if you're looking for one, those guys would be a great place for you to stop.